3 in the morning, and I'm standing in my own kitchen like a burglar, listening to my wife giggle into her phone behind a locked door. Trevor McKinnon, 50 years old, successful restaurateur, reduced to playing detective in his own house. The irony tastes worse than day-old fish. "Oh, Sean, you're so bad." Nadine's voice drifts through the office door, followed by more giggles that sound nothing like the woman I married 22 years ago. And before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Sean. Of course it's Sean Dorsey, my former best friend, my former business partner, my current nightmare. The man who borrowed money from me 6 months ago to expand his construction business and never paid it back. The same Sean who's been conveniently absent from our usual poker nights, our weekend barbecues, our entire friendship. I pad back to the bedroom, careful not to let the floorboards creak. Nadine's side of the bed remains cold, the sheets undisturbed. Her jewelry box sits open on the dresser, missing the diamond earrings I bought her for our anniversary. The expensive perfume I gave her last Christmas is nearly empty, though she never wears it around me anymore. Who knew real estate could be so hands-on? I mutter to the darkness. The next morning arrives with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Nadine breezes into the kitchen at 7:30, perfectly dressed in her power suit, not a hair out of place. She's 48 and still stunning, all sharp angles and calculated beauty. Her real estate career has been booming lately, or so she tells me. "Morning, honey," she says, not looking up from her phone. "I'll be showing properties all day. Don't wait up." "Which properties?" I ask, sipping my coffee. "The Riverside Development. Sean's construction company is handling the renovations." She says his name like it means nothing, like we haven't been friends for 15 years. "Funny, he hasn't mentioned working with you." "Why would he? It's just business." Still not looking at me. I set down my mug harder than necessary. "When's the last time you actually saw Sean?" Now she looks up, her green eyes flashing with something that might be panic. "I don't know. Months ago? Trevor, what's with the interrogation?" "Just curious about my old friend." "Well, be curious on your own time. I'm late." She grabs her purse and heads for the door, then pauses. "Oh, I need to use the iPad today. Mine's being repaired." After she leaves, I pour another cup of coffee and open our shared iPad. Nadine's always been careless with technology, never quite grasping that deleted doesn't mean gone. Her text messages sync automatically, a feature she enabled and apparently forgot about. The most recent thread makes me freeze. Sean. "Can't wait to christen the new property again." Nadine. Me too. Trevor's working late tonight." Sean. "Perfect. I'll bring the wine." Nadine. "Bring yourself. That's all I need." I screenshot everything before my hands start shaking. 22 years of marriage, reduced to emoji hearts and sexual innuendos with my former best friend. My phone buzzes. Marty, my restaurant manager, texting from the morning prep shift. Marty. "Boss, saw Nadine's car at that burned-out property on Elm Street last night. Thought you should know." Marty's ex-military, loyal as a bloodhound, and observant as hell. If he's telling me this, it's because he knows what it means. I text back, "What time?" Marty. "Around 11 p.m. Wasn't alone. The burned-out property on Elm Street. I know it well. It's been sitting empty for months after a kitchen fire, waiting for renovation. Sean's company bid on the restoration work. Nadine's been trying to get the listing. Apparently they've found other uses for it. That evening, I tell Nadine I'm working late at the restaurant. She tries to hide her excitement, but I catch the little smile she thinks I don't see. "Don't wait up," she says, echoing my words from this morning. Wouldn't dream of it. At 9:30, I park my car 3 blocks from the Elm Street property and walk through the shadows like some suburban stalker. The building squats in the darkness, windows boarded up, but there's light coming from the back. And there's Nadine's white BMW parked next to Xi'an's ridiculous red Corvette. I circle around to the rear of the building, where someone has pried open a back door. The sound of voices carries through the night air, along with the unmistakable sounds of 2 people who definitely aren't discussing property values. I pull out my phone and start recording. Through the gap in the boarded windows, I can see them clearly. Nadine, my wife of 22 years, wrapped around Sean Dorsey on a mattress someone dragged in here. Her real estate blazer hangs from a charred beam. His construction boots are kicked into the corner next to a bottle of wine and what looks like a picnic basket. "This is so much better than that stuffy house," Nadine pants. "Trevor's such a bore. All he talks about is the restaurant." "Forget Trevor," Sean growls. "After we get married, you won't have to pretend anymore." Married. The word hits me like a physical blow. "Have you told Jennifer yet?" Nadine asks. Jennifer, Sean's fiancée of 6 months. A sweet kindergarten teacher who thinks the sun shines out of Sean's ass. Soon, Sean says, after we finish this deal, your husband's restaurant property would be perfect for my new office complex. He'll never sell. He will when his business starts failing. I've already started redirecting some of his suppliers to my other projects. Amazing what you can accomplish with inside information. My wife's laughter fills the burned-out shell. Poor Trevor. He has no idea. I've heard enough. I pocket the phone and retreat to my car, mind racing. They're not just having an affair, they're plotting to destroy my business and steal my property. The restaurant I built from nothing, the life I've worked 20 years to create. But Trevor McKinnon didn't build a successful restaurant by rolling over when things got tough. If Nadine and Sean want to play games, I'll show them what a real player looks like. Time for Operation Payback. The next morning, I sit in my restaurant office at 5 a.m., surrounded by evidence. Screenshots of text messages, photos of credit card statements showing charges at expensive hotels, and the video from last night that could end 2 relationships and possibly a business partnership. But I'm not ready to drop the nuclear option yet. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and I'm a chef who believes in proper preparation. First stop, the bank. I arrive when they open and have a very productive conversation with my personal banker about joint accounts and credit cards. Amazing how quickly you can freeze someone's access to money when your name is the primary on all the accounts. Second stop, the locksmith. By noon, every lock on our house has been changed. I leave Nadine's belongings in neat piles on the front porch, along with a note, since you prefer other accommodations. Third stop, my lawyer's office. Divorce papers take time, but restraining orders can be expedited, especially when you have video evidence of adultery and conspiracy to commit business fraud. My phone starts ringing at 2 p.m. Trevor, what the hell did you do? Nadine's voice is shrill, panicked. My credit cards aren't working, and I can't get into the house. Funny thing about joint accounts, I say, stirring a pot of soup with one hand. They require joint consent for major purchases. I've decided to withhold my consent indefinitely. You can't do this. Actually, I can. Check your email. My lawyer sent you some interesting reading material. The line goes quiet, except for her ragged breathing. Trevor, we can work this out. It's not what you think. Really? Because I think it's exactly what I recorded last night at the Elm Street property. You remember, the romantic evening with Sean where you discussed my business failure and your upcoming marriage. The silence stretches so long, I wonder if she's hung up. You were spying on me. I was protecting my interests, something I should have done months ago. I want half of everything. The house, the restaurant, all of it. Want in one hand, spit in the other, see which fills up first. I hang up and go back to my soup. An hour later, my sister-in-law Lois calls. Nadine's older sister has never liked me, but she absolutely despises Sean Dorsey. Trevor, I heard about the separation. I'm not surprised. Thanks for the support, Lois. Don't get sarcastic with me. I'm calling because there's something you need to know about your friend Sean. Former friend. He's engaged to that teacher, Jennifer Walsh. Has been for 6 months. The wedding's planned for October. I know about Jennifer. Do you know he's been using your wife to get inside information about commercial properties? He's been underbidding on deals where Nadine has access to the competing offers. This is news. How do you know this? Because I work for the county assessor's office, and I've seen the patterns. Sean's company has won 12 bids in the last 6 months, all on properties where Nadine was the listing agent for competing sellers. That's illegal. It's also provable. I've been documenting it, waiting for the right moment. Why are you helping me? Lois laughs, but there's no humor in it. Because Sean Dorsey screwed over my ex-husband's construction business 3 years ago, and because Nadine's been acting like a spoiled brat since she started this affair. Time someone knocked her down a peg. That evening, I implement phase 2 of my plan. I call every supplier Sean's been poaching from me and offer them exclusive contracts at slightly better terms than they're getting from his projects. By midnight, I've locked up 3 major suppliers and left Sean scrambling to find new sources for his current jobs. Then I call Jennifer Walsh. Hello, Jennifer. This is Trevor McKinnon, Sean's friend. Oh, hi, Trevor. Sean's mentioned you. How are you? I'm fine, but I'm calling because I think there's something you should know about Sean's business practices. I don't tell her about the affair. Not yet, but I do mention the bid rigging, the supplier theft, and the fact that he's been using my wife's inside information to gain unfair advantages in contract negotiations. That doesn't sound like Sean, she says, but I can hear doubt creeping into her voice. I hope you're right, Jennifer, but maybe you should ask him about the Riverside Development Project. Ask him how he knew exactly what to bid. After I hang up, I pour myself a scotch and sit in my newly quiet house. Tomorrow, I'll escalate further. But tonight, I want to savor the anticipation. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Unknown. Back off, Trevor. You don't know what you're messing with. I text back, is this Sean? New phone or just finally showing your true colors? Unknown. This is your only warning. Me. Thanks for the heads up. I'll be sure to forward this to Detective Price. He loves harassment cases. The phone goes silent. Sean never was good at thinking ahead. I finish my scotch and head to bed, sleeping better than I have in months. Tomorrow, the real fun begins. The next morning brings chaos in the form of my restaurant's phone ringing off the hook. Apparently, Sean's been calling our regular suppliers, trying to poach them back with promises of bigger contracts and better payment terms. Boss, Marty says, sticking his head into my office. That Dorsey guy called 3 times this morning. Wants to meet with you. I bet he does. What did you tell him? That you were busy planning his funeral. Marty grins. Figuratively speaking. Good man. Any word from Nadine? She showed up at 7, tried to get in through the back door. I explained that she wasn't welcome on the premises anymore. How did she take that? About as well as a rabid raccoon. She's threatening to sue for half the business. Let her try. Hard to claim ownership of something you've been actively trying to destroy. My phone rings. Detective Price, returning my call about Sean's threatening text. Trevor, I got your message. You want to file a harassment complaint? Maybe. Depends on what else I find. Can you run a background check on Sean Dorsey's construction business? I think there might be some irregularities in his bidding practices. I can look into it. You got evidence? I'm working on it. At noon, I drive to the Riverside development where Nadine claimed to be showing properties. It's a new subdivision of upscale homes, half finished and crawling with Sean's construction crews. I park across the street and wait. 20 minutes later, Nadine's BMW pulls up to the sales trailer. She gets out, smooths her skirt, and walks inside like she owns the place. Sean's red Corvette is already there. I cross the street and walk around the trailer until I find a window. The blinds are closed, but there's a gap at the bottom. What I see makes my stomach turn. They're not alone. There's a third person in the trailer, a thin, nervous-looking man in an expensive suit who's spreading papers across the table. The restaurant property is perfect for the office complex, Sean is saying. Right downtown, plenty of parking, and the current owner is motivated to sell. I'm not motivated to sell anything, I mutter. How motivated? The thin man asks. Very, Nadine says. His business is failing. I've made sure of that. What about zoning? Already handled, Sean says. I have contacts on the planning commission. The thin man nods and pulls out a checkbook. If you can deliver the property by December, we have a deal. I pull out my phone and start recording again. This isn't just adultery anymore. It's conspiracy to commit fraud, possibly bribery, and definitely grounds for a criminal investigation. But first, I want to have a little fun. I walk around to the front of the trailer and knock on the door. The voices inside go silent. Sean opens the door, and his face goes white when he sees me. Trevor, what are you doing here? Looking at real estate. I hear this is a hot market. I push past him into the trailer. Nadine is frantically shuffling papers, trying to hide the documents they were just discussing. The thin man looks confused and annoyed. Who's this? He asks. This is Trevor McKinnon, I say, extending my hand. Owner of McKinnon's restaurant, the property these two have been promising to sell you. The man's face changes. I thought you were motivated to sell? Motivated to sell? Who told you that? He looks at Sean and Nadine, both of whom are trying to disappear into the trailer's cheap paneling. There seems to be some confusion, the man says slowly. No confusion on my end. My restaurant isn't for sale, never has been, and never will be. At least not to anyone associated with these two. I turn to Sean. Nice operation you've got here. Selling property you don't own to investors who don't know better. What's the legal term for that, Nadine? You're the real estate expert. It's called fraud, she whispers. That's right. Fraud. A felony, if I'm not mistaken. The thin man is already heading for the door. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'll be in touch. After he leaves, the three of us stand in the trailer like actors who've forgotten their lines. Trevor, let me explain, Sean starts. Explain what? How you've been using my wife to steal my suppliers, how you've been promising to sell my property to investors, how you've been screwing my wife in burned-out buildings while planning to marry someone else. Nadine gasps. You know about Jennifer? I know about everything, sweetheart. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Sean steps forward, trying to look intimidating. You need to back off, Trevor. This doesn't concern you. My wife and my business don't concern me? That's an interesting legal theory. I'm warning you. You're warning me? I laugh, pulling out my phone. Let me play you something interesting. I start the recording from last night. Their voices fill the trailer, discussing their affair, their plans to destroy my business, their upcoming marriage. Nadine sinks into a chair. Sean's face goes from red to purple. You recorded us? I documented criminal conspiracy. There's a difference. That's illegal. Actually, it's not. Single-party consent state. Look it up. I pocket the phone and head for the door. You have until tomorrow to decide how you want to handle this. We can do it the easy way, or we can do it the public way. Your choice. What do you want? Nadine asks. Justice, I say, and maybe a little entertainment. That evening, I call Jennifer Walsh again. Hello, Jennifer. It's Trevor McKinnon. We spoke yesterday about Sean's business practices. Yes, I remember. I talked to Sean about what you said. What did he tell you? He said you were jealous of his success in trying to cause trouble. I see. Jennifer, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Has Sean been acting differently lately? Staying out late, being secretive about work, maybe mentioning my wife Nadine more than seems normal? The silence stretches for almost a minute. How did you know? She finally whispers. Because I've been documenting everything. Jennifer, I think you and I should meet. There are some things you need to see. Jennifer Walsh turns out to be exactly what I expected. Sweet, trusting, and completely unprepared for the reality of Sean Dorsey. We meet at a coffee shop downtown, and I show her everything. The photos, the recordings, the financial documents Lois provided showing the bid rigging scheme. She cries quietly while listening to the audio of Sean and Nadine planning their future together. When it's over, she sits in silence for a long time. I feel so stupid, she finally says. You're not stupid. You're honest. That's not a character flaw. What are you going to do? That depends on what you want to do. She looks up at me with red eyes. I want him to pay. Good, because I have a plan. The next day is Saturday, and Sean's construction company is hosting an open house for the Riverside development. It's a big deal. Potential buyers, real estate agents, local media, and the mayor will all be there. Sean's been promoting it for weeks as his company's coming out party. I arrive early and position myself near the entrance with a stack of flyers I had printed overnight. The headline reads, Buyer Beware, The Truth About Dorsey Construction. As people arrive, I hand out flyers with a smile. Important information about the developer, I say cheerfully. Wouldn't want anyone to make an uninformed purchase. The flyers contain everything, photos of Sean and Nadine at the burned-out building, transcripts of their conversations about fraud and bid rigging, and a timeline of Sean's business practices over the last year. By the time Sean realizes what's happening, half the potential buyers are reading about his personal and professional misconduct. He storms over to me, face purple with rage. What the hell do you think you're doing? Public service, I say, handing a flyer to a reporter from the local paper, making sure people have all the facts before they invest their life savings. This is harassment. This is truth in advertising. Jennifer appears beside me, holding her own stack of flyers. Hello, Sean. His face goes white. Jen, what are you doing here? Learning about my fiancé's business practices and his extracurricular activities. She holds up her left hand, showing her bare ring finger. I gave this back to your secretary this morning, along with a detailed letter explaining why. A crowd is gathering, drawn by the drama. Someone's taking pictures. The reporter is scribbling notes. You can't do this to me, Sean says. Actually, I can, Jennifer says. It's called consequences. Nadine appears from the sales trailer, sees the crowd, and immediately tries to retreat. But Lois is waiting for her. Hello, sister, Lois says loudly enough for everyone to hear. Fancy seeing you here. Working hard or hardly working? Lois, stay out of this. Oh, I don't think so. I've been staying out of it for months. Time to get involved. Lois pulls out a folder thick with documents. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in the full scope of fraud being perpetrated here, I have documentation from the county assessor's office showing a pattern of bid rigging and insider trading involving both Dorsey Construction and Nadine McKinnon Real Estate. The reporter's eyes light up. This is turning into a much bigger story than a simple open house. Sean makes a desperate play. Trevor, we can work this out. We're old friends. We're old friends, I correct. Before you decided to steal my wife, my business contacts, and my property. I never stole your property. No, you just promised to sell it to investors without my knowledge or consent. What's the legal term for that again, Nadine? She's backed against the trailer now, surrounded by angry potential buyers who are realizing they've been lied to. It was just talk, she says weakly. Funny thing about just talk, I say, pulling out my phone. Sometimes it gets recorded. I play the audio of their conversation about selling my restaurant. The crowd listens in fascination as Sean and Nadine discuss destroying my business and splitting the profits. When it's over, the silence is deafening. Well, the reporter says, this is certainly newsworthy. Detective Price chooses that moment to arrive with 2 other officers. Sean Dorsey, we need to talk to you about some irregularities in your business filings. This is harassment, Sean shouts. This is an investigation, Price says calmly, based on evidence provided by multiple sources. As they lead Sean away in handcuffs, apparently the bid rigging scheme was more extensive than even I knew, I turn to Nadine. You have a choice, I tell her quietly. Sign the divorce papers and the asset forfeiture agreement, or this gets much worse. You can't take everything. Actually, I can. Adultery voids the prenup's infidelity clause, and conspiracy to defraud voids your claim to business assets. My lawyer explained it very thoroughly. She looks around at the crowd, the cameras, the wreckage of her reputation. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. Jennifer appears beside me. Trevor, thank you for everything. Thank you for having the courage to face the truth. What will you do now? I look at the chaos around us. Sean being loaded into a police car, Nadine crying into her phone, the reporter interviewing shocked potential buyers. I think I'll buy some property, I say. I hear there's a nice burned-out building on Elm Street that's about to come on the market cheap. 6 months later, I'm standing in the kitchen of my new restaurant, built in the renovated shell of the burned-out building where my marriage died. The irony is delicious, and I'm a man who appreciates good irony almost as much as good food. The grand opening is tonight. I've invited everyone, the whole town, the media, even some of the people who lost money in Sean's development scheme. The signature cocktail is called Second Thoughts, and it's selling better than I expected. Marty appears in the kitchen doorway. Boss, we've got a problem. What kind of problem? The kind that's standing in the parking lot demanding to be let in. Through the kitchen window, I can see Nadine pacing beside a rusted Honda Civic. Her real estate career ended the day the newspaper ran the fraud story. Her marriage to me ended the day she signed the divorce papers. Her relationship with Sean ended the day he was sentenced to 18 months for bid rigging and fraud. She looks older, harder, desperate. Let her in, I tell Marty. You sure? I'm sure, but keep an eye on things. 5 minutes later, Nadine pushes through the crowd in the dining room. She's wearing a cheap dress and scuffed shoes, a far cry from the power suits and designer heels she used to favor. Trevor, we need to talk. We're divorced, Nadine. We don't need to do anything. I'm broke. I lost my license, my job, everything. Consequences. I'm living in a studio apartment above the dry cleaner. My car barely runs. I can't even afford groceries. I look at her for a long moment. This woman who shared my bed for 22 years and then tried to destroy everything I built. You know what your problem is, Nadine. You never learned the difference between want and need. You wanted more excitement, more money, more status. You needed to destroy everything good in your life to get it. I made mistakes. You made choices. There's a difference. The crowd around us is listening now, drawn by the drama. Someone's filming with their phone. Please, Trevor, I'm asking for help. You're asking for money. Again, just like you asked Sean's investors for money for property you didn't own. Just like you asked Sean to destroy my business so you could profit from the wreckage. I turn to address the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet my ex-wife, Nadine. 6 months ago, she and her boyfriend tried to steal this building and my original restaurant through fraud and conspiracy. Tonight, she's here asking for charity. The crowd murmurs, some recognizing her from the newspaper stories. The beautiful thing about justice, I continue, is that it's self-serving. Nadine wanted more than she had, so she lost everything she had. Sean wanted my business, so he lost his own business. They wanted to destroy my life, so they destroyed their own lives instead. Nadine's face crumples. You're enjoying this. I'm savoring it. There's a difference. She turns and pushes back through the crowd toward the exit, but she stops at the door and looks back. You used to be a good man, Trevor. I used to be a naive man. Good is subjective. After she leaves, the party resumes with even more energy. People love a good story, especially one with clear villains and satisfying justice. Around midnight, as we're cleaning up, Jennifer Walsh stops by. She's been dating a teacher from the next town over, someone who appreciates honesty and loyalty. Great party, she says. Great restaurant. Thanks. How are you doing? Better, much better. Turns out getting betrayed was the best thing that ever happened to me. Funny how that works. What about you? Any regrets? I look around the restaurant built from the ashes of my marriage, filled with friends and customers who respect what I've accomplished. My business is thriving, my reputation is solid, and my enemies are exactly where they deserve to be. No regrets, I say, just reservations. She laughs. That's terrible, but accurate. After everyone leaves, I sit alone in my new restaurant, sipping a glass of wine and reading the newspaper review of tonight's opening. 5 stars, with special mention of the poetic justice of the location. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Unknown. Congratulations on your success. Some of us got what we deserved. It's probably Sean, texting from whatever minimum security facility he's calling home these days. I delete the message without responding. Outside, snow is starting to fall, covering the parking lot where Nadine made her final plea for mercy. By morning, it will be pristine white, unmarked by footprints or tire tracks. A clean slate. I finish my wine, turn off the lights, and lock the door of my new life. Tomorrow, I'll open for regular business. Tonight, I'll go home to my quiet house and sleep the sleep of the justified. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I'm a chef, and I know the truth. Revenge is best served exactly the way the customer ordered it. In my case, that was hot, public, and with a side of poetic justice.